Hello. Finally, I read Wuthering Heights. And I am in love with Emily Bronte's writing. I know, obviously, it's a classic, so it's naturally really good. But I've seen many people who don't like it because of the violence and about every character not being nice, right? And it focuses a lot on violence, it focuses a lot of destructive relationships and, people taking revenge on each other. No character is good, That is the humane nature of people. We're not nice. Nobody's that nice. We're not Heathcliff, but we are not, a saint either. We've all done some terrible shit in our lives. I read Wuthering Heights, right? And I believe that every single character needs therapy. Yes, therapy. Because we begin the story with Mr. Lockwood. He is a tenant of Mr. Heathcliff's property. He is visiting Mr. Heathcliff, alright? And he sees that Heathcliff person is not a nice person, he's not very welcoming. The people in the house are not very welcoming either, and nobody is smiling, nobody's laughing. They're not a happy family. That is the conclusion of Mr. Lockwood. Then he stays there and he finds out about Catherine and Heathcliff loved each other, and he keeps on thinking about it. He finds a diary of Catherine, and then when he sleeps he has a dream about how Catherine is standing outside the window and she's saying, Heathcliff, let me in, I've come back, let me in, right? That is the dream he has, and he's scared. He gets scared and he wakes up and he tells Mr. Heathcliff about it, and Mr. Heathcliff starts crying and he starts remembering Cathy, and he has a whole breakdown, Mr. Heathcliff, right? So naturally Lockwood is interested to know. He goes back to his house and asks the servant Nellie who is working there. He asks the whole history, and Nellie is now narrating the story to us. All right, so we are all reading from Lockwood's perspective about Nellie's perspective about what actually happened. All right, so Nellie begins with Mr. Earnshaw, the father of the house. So Mr. Earnshaw has two children, right? Hindley Earnshaw and Catherine Earnshaw. He had gone to Liverpool for some work, and he brings a child home named Heathcliff. Alright, we don't know whose child is that, and people do speculate that Heathcliff could be his bastard son, but we don't know. Alright, Emily Bronte hasn't described anything about Heathcliff. Where did he come from? No, he was a person of color, right? He was dark skinned and a gypsy. Now, dark skin could mean anything. Gypsy is basically from either Egyptian origin or from Indian origin. So we don't know much. He's described as gypsy because people back then who were dark-skinned were described as gypsies. It was considered an offensive term. So we don't really know where Heathcliff has come from, what race Heathcliff is. Now, Heathcliff grows up to be Earnshaw's favorite child. And Hindley Earnshaw actually is deserted by his father. Hindley is growing, he is getting angry. He's, getting jealous of Heathcliff, right? And he is starting to treat Heathcliff like a servant. And he bashes him, and sadly, Mr. Earnshaw dies. And Catherine and Heathcliff have developed a very loving relationship, all right? As brother and sister, they were supposed to be, but now they're, very much in love with each other. And Hindley gets married, has a son, Hareton. Hindley is treating Heathcliff really badly, all right? And now comes the another wealthy family of Lintons, all right? So there's Edgar Linton and Isabella Linton. They're both brothers and sisters. And Catherine happens to go there, and she comes back as a really changed person, all right? And when Heathcliff goes to meet Catherine, the Lintons do not treat Heathcliff well. They consider him as a servant, and they are really rude to him, and they don't let him enter the house again. So Catherine, when she comes back, she is kind of in awe with Edgar, all right? Catherine is changed person. She's wearing silks and all that, and Heathcliff is really feeling really inferior in front of her, and he's she's changed. Now, Catherine is very much curious about Lintons, the wealthy Lintons. When it comes to marriage, Catherine says that I cannot marry Heathcliff because he doesn't have much money, and she marries basically for wealth of Linton. She's not in love with Linton, Edgar Linton, but he is very much in love with her, but she's not in love with him. And she marries Edgar Linton basically for his money so that she could help Heathcliff. Right? Yeah, doesn't make much sense, but yeah, bear with me. Now, alright, Heathcliff hears all of this, that Catherine is saying that how she can't marry Heathcliff because he's poor, right? He doesn't have much. And Heathcliff basically storms out of the house and returns after 3 years. Till then, Catherine is married to Edgar Linton. And when Heathcliff gets to know about it, he gets really pissed off and he visits Catherine. Now, Catherine is basically really stressed because she wants both of them. She wants Heathcliff even and she wants Edgar Linton even. Then we get to know that Catherine is so stressed about meeting Heathcliff that she gets sick, gets mentally sick, and Heathcliff, when he returns, he's like a really wealthy person. I don't know where that wealth came from, but he's really wealthy. And he stays at Wuthering Heights is the name of the house that Heathcliff was brought into, alright? So the Earnshaw house is named as Wuthering Heights. And the Linton house is Thrushcross Grange. So Heathcliff goes back to Wuthering Heights and he is living with Hindley, who is now an alcoholic. He's treating his son Hareton very poorly, and Heathcliff basically goes there to grab Wuthering Heights, right, to take revenge. He's staying there and Catherine dies and Heathcliff loses his mind. Edgar Linton also loses his mind. Catherine, when she's dying, she gives birth to a daughter who's also named Catherine, Kathy for short. I forgot one thing. Edgar's sister Isabella falls in love with Heathcliff when he returns after 3 years. She is like, oh, right, I want this bad boy. She's in that kind of mindset. Catherine even warns her that Heathcliff will eat you up alive. And she says, no, I want to marry him. So she runs away with him. And Heathcliff literally strangles her dog. Heathcliff treats her really badly just because he wants to get back at Edgar. He doesn't have anything to do with Isabella. He wants to get back at Edgar for treating him poorly and marrying his favorite, Catherine. So he treats her really badly. And Isabella kind of, is frustrated and runs away. And I don't remember where, but she runs away somewhere far. And she has a son who is named Linton. Alright? Fast forward to 13 years later. Heathcliff is still living at Wuthering Heights, still abusing Hareton. Alright, Hindley has died, and Heathcliff has acquired Wuthering Heights as his own property. Now he wants to acquire Thrushcross Grange even to get back at Edgar. Right? Edgar has broken all kinds of relations with Isabella because she married Heathcliff, because she didn't listen to him. So he has broken all kinds of relations. But when Isabella is really sick and she's dying, she sends a letter to Edgar about her, telling him how she has a son and he needs to take care of his son. So Edgar, being a good uncle, he goes there, collects Linton and comes back. Now Kathy is very much interested in Linton, her cousin. Alright, she once happens to stop by at Wuthering Heights and she sees Hareton, who's also her cousin. But when she sees him, Hareton doesn't know how to read because Heathcliff is kind of abusing him. He's not letting him, learn anything. He's not letting him be a part of the property because it's his father's property, right? Hareton's father's property. But Heathcliff is abusing him and he's treating him as a less of a person. And Hareton doesn't know anything. He's kind of stupid. Alright, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to read. And Kathy makes fun of him. And when she gets to know that Hareton is her cousin, she gets really ashamed by it. And she says that this person cannot be my cousin. Alright? So she is not looking at Hareton as her cousin. She is interested in Linton, who is wealthy. Alright? So when Linton comes back, Kathy is very much interested in him. And as Linton comes back, Heathcliff gets to know about it, that his son is in the town. And Edgar basically has to send Linton to Heathcliff. So Heathcliff and Linton are now staying together at Wuthering Heights, and Kathy is very much interested in Linton, right? So she thinks that Linton is in love with her. But Linton is not in love with her, right? Linton is basically using her. And I wish I could say that to Kathy, she's so forgiving because Linton basically treats her like shit, and still she has to go back to Linton, alright? So she keeps going back to Linton, and Heathcliff, who wants to acquire Thrushcross Grange, he thinks that if Kathy and Linton get married before Edgar dies, he can grab Thrushcross Grange even. That is his motive, right? So Linton and Kathy do get married forcefully, and Linton basically treats her like shit too. And Linton is the weak boy, kind of a weak boy, meek boy. He is always sick. And I think he's trying to like pretend to be sick to get his way. He's always crying and he's very fragile, right? Now, Heathcliff has acquired Thrushcross Grange even. Linton slowly perishes and he dies. Kathy is very much, abused by Heathcliff, also hits her. So yeah, Kathy is in a dire situation right now. She's living with Hareton and other servants. Now, Kathy and Hareton form a relationship, right? They form friendly relations. Kathy agrees to teach Hareton how to read. And now they were both basically friends. Now Heathcliff is watching all of this and he is realizing that he did not gain much from all of the property he acquired. He did not gain much. He did not get what he wanted. And Heathcliff is still very much obsessed with Catherine and is seeing a ghost of Catherine, and he's also going mad day by day. And Heathcliff's life comes to an end. See it from Lockwood's perspective about how Nellie narrates how Heathcliff died. Lockwood sees Hareton and Kathy, happy. So basically, Kathy and Hareton end up happily and rest all die. That is the story, alright? And I loved it. I loved this story. Don't you think that all of these characters need therapy? This is a chaotic world of Emily Bronte. And I understand that Heathcliff was abused as a child by Hindley. But to take revenge, don't involve your upcoming generations in it. I mean, come on. He's just manipulating children at that point. Heathcliff, buddy, you need a safe space to process your childhood. Because this is not it. Catherine, on the other hand, has a different kind of lore going on. She thinks that she can have both of the men, both of them, Edgar and Heathcliff. And when she doesn't get them, she, breaks down and stresses about it. Catherine also says, I am Heathcliff. Okay, Catherine, honey, you are not Heathcliff, alright? Yes, you may love him. You need time away from both Edgar and Heathcliff. Take some time again, please, because your children will then get abused. Take some time away. Then we have Edgar Linton and Isabella Linton, who look good on paper and they think they're superior to all of them. So yeah, Edgar, no, you can't fix Catherine. No, you can't. Just Isabella, recognize red flags. Heathcliff literally strangled your dog and you still married him. My God, I'm still happy that Isabella got away from Heathcliff. I'm still happy about that. But yeah, Linton, stop crying about your problems, honey. Nobody cares. Alright? Nobody cares. Just do less drama, and support your wife. Alright? Who's done everything for you, who's left her parents for you. Support your wife. Kathy, no, Linton doesn't love you. Alright? Linton is just getting his way with you. He's just doing what he wants. Alright? He is shit scared of Heathcliff. And no, he will not protect you. Wake up, Kathy. Right, these were the characters. The mother figure is missing from all of these families, right? So if there was a mother figure, they would have taken some thoughtful decisions, all right? They would not have taken rash decisions, and they would not have thought, this person is in love with me, let's get married to him. No, that's it. That is what I learned from Emily Bronte's novel, Wuthering Heights. And I love it, all right? I don't care what anybody says. Yes, there is violence, yes. But this was the most perfect book I've ever read. I could find any mistakes. And yes, I could not understand what Joseph says either, but I loved that novel. That's it. Every character in Wuthering Heights needs therapy, in short. What would you say if you meet a Heathcliff in your life, or a Catherine in your life, or anybody from Wuthering Heights? What would you say to them? I would like to know that.